Hey, Jacob from Go Industrial.
Anthony from Go Industrial.
And well, today we're just going to have a chat about priming issues on site, particularly when spraying. It's a troubleshooting step that we go through a lot with our painters. Generally between site or when you walk away from the machine when it's been primed and you've been spraying for a couple of hours, what can happen sometimes is this inlet check ball here can get stuck on the seat and it causes all sorts of issues with priming and spraying. Generally it's a bit of a stressful situation if you're getting back on the gun, you're trying to get a job out and finished with. So rather than having to engage with a Graco service agent and go through the steps, we want to put this little guide together to get you out of trouble. It's a really easy step of things to do on site to get you up and running. Yeah. So what do we find the most?
So typically what we find is if you've left the machine, you've been painting and you've gone away and then come back to the machine, what can actually happen is sometimes the ball can actually be stuck to sort of the base plate, or maybe the ball stuck inside the top valve there. And this can happen on new machines, old machines.
Yeah,
it could be first use, it doesn't really matter. And it's really simple to fix. Pretty much what you want to do is you just want to turn off your machine, get it into prime mode, turn it back on. You just want to start the priming process. So a little bit of pressure, just as you would normally.
Don't need high pressure when priming. You don't want to overwork the pump because it's literally just using the gravity to get it moving through. Usually you'll notice if there's no flow coming out of the drain tube when priming, that inlet ball is stuck to the seat for whatever reason. So unless it's in the actual center of that seat and it's generating suction, you're just going to have no flow, which means when you flick it into spray, you're not going to be able to build pressure effectively. So when it's priming slowly,
what you want to do is you just want to get a rubber mallet or a hammer,
wrap it with a rag.
Bit of rag,
don't damage the housing.
Just on the lower housing here, you just want to give it a firm, not overly difficult. You don't want to bust it up. Just a nice firm tap. Just while it's priming. And what you should notice is you should actually start having fluid coming out of that drain tube.
That's it. So usually that unsticks the ball or it gets it back in the center of that seat, and it just means that we're starting to generate suction again. If for whatever reason that doesn't work, we go on to our second step, which is actually turning the machine off. We're going to disconnect the power, make sure that the pressure's been relieved from the system, and we're actually going to unscrew this bottom section of the pump here, and we're going to have a look at the three main components in that section to make sure it's all clean, there's no paint stuck on the seat, and everything's ready to go and be reassembled again. So
exactly, let's do that.
Walk me through it, let's do it.
So you've run the first test, you've tried giving it a whack, but you've still got no priming. The next thing you want to do is just take off this lower section, inspect the parts in here, and also check that the top check valve is moving. And it might sound scary, but we're going to run through it really quick, and it's pretty easy. So first thing you want to do is just give this a tap, just get it loose. Then once you've got it, just unscrew this section here.
Yeah, be delicate when you're unscrewing it off this main cylinder thread here, because there is an O-ring, and this is another issue that does arise. If you've got paint leaking from the top sections of the seal here, you might have split your O-ring. There are two versions of O-rings we've used over time. So Graco initially had a white O-ring here, which was a little bit more prone to breaking if you're putting the pump back on the wrong way and you're splitting it. But this PTFE black O-ring, which is fairly new, it's always a spare part to have handy. So if this breaks for whatever reason, you're going to get paint leaking through, you're not going to be able to build pressure, and your machine's essentially unoperable. So it's a little bit annoying.
Exactly. So next step, you just want to disconnect this hose, your drain hose, just to give you a bit more freedom. Now you've just got this section here. So basically inside here, you've just got a few components. You just want to give it a tap like that.
Most should come out. More than likely the seat will be stuck actually in the housing because it is in there nice and snug.
You can just see that there, you got a bit of paint build up there, and this is actually stuck. So this is actually three parts.
Oh, there's the seat, there you go.
So you've got a flat seat there.
And like we can see here, you see the paint build up around the seat. If there's any dry paint along here and the ball's not sitting exactly in the center there and creating that suction, could be slightly offset by dried paint, and that is actually going to cause your stop of flow coming through the drain tube.
So that's your ball there, just sits like so, gets trapped in with that little cage, and that
that's
just
what moves up and down and generates suction.
Operates freely like that. So
don't lose your ball.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you just want to give these a clean pretty much. And so you can just basically do that just with some water, a little bit of terps, something like that. Give them a wipe down, and once they're clean, what they'll actually look like is So if you give that a bit of a tap, get that plate as well. There you go. So once they're clean, you'll see no build up, nice clean seal, ball. Also note there is also a white O-ring inside there at the bottom that just sits at the bottom. It's not really necessary to take that one out. You can sort of soak this section here if you did want to take that out, leave the O-ring in, and then just give it a bit of a wipe with a rag. But yeah, as long as you don't have any sort of chunks in there of paint or anything else, you're pretty well fine. And then you just sort of drop that one in there delicately. It'll sit flat. Then you just want to go with the ball. Make sure it's sitting in the center, and then just over at the cage, and just pop that down. Put your finger on top of the cage, holding the housing, and give that a shake. You should hear that free movement. So that's the lower housing done.
It's probably good to take off the lower housing, you know, give your machine a deep clean like once a month. Depends on how frequent you're spraying, but you'd be surprised at how much paint can build up even though you are flushing it regularly with water or with mineral spirits, depending on what material you're spraying. If you're switching between oil and water-based paints, you'll notice sometimes that no matter how thoroughly you think you've cleaned the system out, there might actually be a mix of residue between the water and the oil. That might actually crystallize in your pump housings, so you have to get in there, scrape some of that out, and make sure all the housings are intact.
Exactly, and the next thing you want to do is after you've checked that lower housing, you just want to check the top housing here. So what you want to do is just get a thin screwdriver, a pen punch, something small enough to sort of get in there. And what you want to do is you just want to lift it up, give it a poke, and you'll actually feel it. You feel there's a small ball in that top section. You'll be able to feel you've got some movement there. And you'll even hear it plunging around a little bit. If that's stuck, that can also cause you problems, just like the lower housing. But if it's free, it's fine. You're ready to screw back on the bottom housing and get painting again. So now that you've put your 3 components back in to your lower pump housing, you can just screw this one on here. Just again being delicate, not to nick that O-ring. Once you find the thread, just give it a good screw. And this is the same as sort of the other components. You want to make sure it's tight, but you don't need to, you know, smash it with a hammer overly tight. Again, with your mallet, just a couple taps. That's good. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for watching. If you do have any more problems persisting, it could be a range of issues. It could be, you know, the pump packings may be worn. It could be the prime valve. You know, we do have other videos as well, so refer to those, or just feel free to give us a call, jump on our website, just have a chat, or on social media. We're always kicking about and always happy to help, no matter what your issues are. But yeah, happy spraying, guys. Thank you.